Right, welcome back to Rambling Achieved episode 4. And we have obviously me and Brandon as usual, but we've got a very special guest here today. How you doing,
I'm not so
Moandain?
sure I'd see very special,
Oh well, you got more pedigree
but
than me.
pedigree. Wow, using the big words and stuff. You're dealing with two people from Alabama. You gotta speak slower.
Hey
Um,
man, the only pedigree I know is Triple H's finisher.
man, um, no, I'm like I've been kind of chomping at the bit for like coming in and wanting to contribute to this conversation because for any of you who got any of the people out there that don't know, I work in IT, so here in the states, video games are considered software at a legal, as a legal part, and so all of the software licensing stuff for not having physical copies and all this other stuff is why I'm here to talk what I'm here to talk about, and it's yeah that's why it's all weird. Yeah.
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 But today we've got obviously they finally broke silence on the whole Xbox debacle. Um, what I was assuming was going to happen was going to be a podcast, considering that's what they seem to have marketed as, and then just dropped this random 20-minute video on their official YouTube channel, which was very weird and bizarre because I don't know, they really felt like we're not. They said they're listening and stuff, but that really just feels like they're putting their hands over their ears and being like, we don't want open questions. These are questions that have been curated perfectly to make us look good.
Yeah,
And I think
and
we all came to that conclusion that it wasn't an impressive show.
yeah,
Very very structured, very in the box. We know what we're going to say, we know what
Mm,
questions are going to be asked.
yeah.
yeah, very much so. And do want to say to the people tuning in, we do also have the Tom Warren interview, the full Phil Spencer interview. Made sure, we're going to include that in there as well, since it's a lot more informative than this little, 20-minute podcast. Listen, and that's the thing. It's in-house people who are being their checks are being written by Microsoft. Like, so what are they supposed? Is Tina Amini supposed to press super hard about? Well, what are the four games? What this, that, and the. I get it, but it just wasn't a revealing podcast at all.
Rather
Yeah,
disappointing, to be honest.
there's a whole lot of time spent saying nothing, to be honest. I mean, I'll admit they did say a few things, but I don't think they really addressed the elephant in the room and what everyone's concerned about. They kind of mentioned that one girl, she mentioned, next gen hardware,
Mm.
like, and it was just a passing comment.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, like, and plus we got to realize that this is the Xbox team, not the Microsoft team. The
Yes.
Microsoft team can basically look at the Xbox team and say, that promise we made you, we're gonna back out on that, and you're not gonna have funding to do hardware next, on the next cycle.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, I kind of think they're covered. Like they don't get to be called out for any lies.
Well,
No.
that was a lot of the vague speak as well, where it was like you're really not making any hardcore commitments to anything. You know what I mean? Even talking about the four games that are coming, they're still saying, yeah, we're gonna look at how these things perform, this, that, and the other. It's like it was never locked in stone that the four exclusive games are going to be the beginning and the end of the exclusive content that goes elsewhere. Even though they didn't say the term that I hate so much, case by case basis, it was so implied that it's a case by case basis, situation that we have unfolding here. Hey, let me ask y'all this. I'll hit you, Looney, and then we'll go to you, Moandain, and we'll kind of just bounce us back and forth. What's your overall sort of takeaway after you finished watching the show, Loon? What was like the main thing that hit your brain after watching the show?
Um, they clearly just want to get their fingers in as many pies as possible. That's their main thing of because they kept reiterating it and reiterate that hardware isn't a main thing anymore. That's an old school technique, is what he was trying to portray across. It's all about and mentioning Roblox and Fortnite and how these are bigger than any one platform, and that we need to get these to every platform that we can possibly get, which is, yeah, sure, but at the same time, these are like lightning in a bottle kind of games. Like there aren't 100 of these things. Like you're talking, how many live service games are getting canned each year just to keep these other games alive and stuff like that? And I don't, it's a worrying future if that's what they think is the only way of moving forward. So,
Totally.
yeah.
What about you,
Definitely
Moandain?
interesting. Oh man. So uh I think that their main focus and their main concern is growth.
Mm.
But I think that's the wrong business approach. I'm definitely old school, and earlier we were talking about how I'm basically, I mean, I'm an old man. I'm the old man in this call. I'm old enough to be both of your dads, you know, like, I'm like damn near twice your age. But like their main focus is growth. And I get it. Like more having a wider customer base and stuff is really, really good. Um, you know, there's just to show how much of a nerd I am, there's like an old Ferengi saying from Star Trek that's like, if more is better, I mean, you know, if all is good, more is better, or all is better, or something like that. It's like if more is good, all is better. And this, like every company out there, it wants all the money. They don't want more of the money than their competitors. They want all of the money. And I really think that they're targeting things wrong. They their main focus is we got to get more customers, we got to get a larger audience, this, that, and the other thing. It's like you're chasing the customers.
Mm.
That's not going to work. You should, I mean, you should honestly have the best product. If your focus is, yeah, if you focus on the best product that you can possibly make, everyone will come to you, and all of the audience, the huge audience, and all of the profit and everything is a byproduct of a good product. It is not the goal. And like so many companies for God, almost over 2 decades have been chasing the customers as opposed to attracting them with a good product. And yeah, that's the old man in me saying that, you know, we've got to, if we can step back to just, well, of course we're kicking everyone's butt because we have the best games. You know, that's whoever's going to wake up and realize to do that. It might be Nintendo.
It already is.
I mean, like, yeah, I mean, Nintendo does not care. They do not chase their customers. They make their widgets, and they're just like, here they are. This is our. Now, if Nintendo ever decided to go from a niche audience all the way out to wide band audience and stuff, and just decided that, hey, we're going to start throwing our weight around pound for pound with Sony and Microsoft. Oh man.
But to your point, Moandain, that would be them chasing, and they don't chase. You know what I mean? Because
yeah,
that would be them.
Well, they would
following.
be chasing their competition. Yeah,
Exactly. But that would also in Intel, you would also be chasing that market. You would also be wanting to get players from that market to transfer from Xbox and PlayStation to this new powerful Nintendo device where they've carved out such a niche. And I'm not a Nintendo fan at all, really. I don't play their games at all. But like, I respect so much to have, you know, because I remember watching back in the day, the what was it, the X Play talk show where Keeley, it was like one of the first video game podcasts where Keeley had this panel on G4, and I remember the discussions going around with I think the Wii at the time where they were like, we're not going to chase this, you know, HD Xbox 360 PS3 era. We're not going to try to compete on a graphical front. We're going to create the best software, the best gameplay experience on the market. And like, it's hard to argue with that. And their software is just constantly churning, constantly burning. You're consistently getting exclusive content on Nintendo that you cannot play anywhere else. And look at the results. The Switch could end up passing the PlayStation 2 as the best selling video game console ever, which
Yeah,
is
and that's
madness.
ridiculous. I mean, like we're sitting here talking about Nintendo, and the analogy just popped into my head. I'm going to let you finish your drink so you don't spit it out when this joke comes out. So if like you know if like Xbox was like this huge retail store and PlayStation was another huge retail store, Nintendo is this grocery store that is within walking distance of a retirement community.
Yeah.
Like, and the great thing about them is that it's so little risk for them because they know what their audience percentage is, so they budget for that. They don't overshoot. They don't overpromise, and that's another big one. Is like how many times have these companies like Microsoft have they overpromised and underdelivered?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Or even just with, like,
that's
for
so
instance,
disappointing for customers.
yeah, even the backwards compatibility problem, not
Yeah.
problem, sorry, the thing that they introduced, it's an incredibly positive thing, but they've tied it in a very weird way to the point where it can just be pulled the plug on at any point. It's not on the console. You're still running basically an Xbox 360 operating
Mm-hmm.
system, beaming it to that console, and then yeah, the moment they're like, ah, we don't really care about it anymore, they can just pull the plug.
And
Yeah.
they did mention that in that 20-minute video of like, hey, we want to support the people who have invested in us in the past. And it's like, well, if you're going to do that, then there needs to be some fundamental changes.
Mm.
And one of the things that they need, like, if they're going to put their money where their mouth is on this, they need to change the fine print on all of their software licensing for all of their games. They need to just say, all right, you know what? We're going to do this. We're going to be the first because they've been the first on so many other things.
Yep.
We're going to be the first, and digital ownership is now real ownership.
Yes. I'm going to pull into this article real quick. Like I said earlier, Tom Warren interviewed Phil Spencer, a much more insightful interview, and highly recommend going and checking that out. But he asked directly about this. He said, obviously, you saw the Xbox fan reaction to some of the rumors, people worried about their digital library and the future of the console. How are you going to keep those fans and keep the Xbox ecosystem alive? Phil Spencer said, I always take the feedback from our most ardent fans very seriously. We're coming out of a December where we had the highest Xbox engagement ever in the history of the console, more players than we've ever had. I know there's this fictitious world where people think that one exclusive game kind of kicks off the sales of a platform, but the industry just doesn't really work that way today. We can talk about that later. We've made a commitment in recognizing and respecting the library of games and people have the games people have purchased on our platform. I think we have a good track record with our backwards compatibility program with Xbox Play Anywhere giving you a PC console entitlement when you buy a game from us. Da, 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 da. When we've talked about future hardware that we're going to build, compatibility and library support is just kind of fundamental for us. When we think about what our plans are, we're very, very committed to that. So, and he also says, I would put our commitment on that front that we've made up against any other platform. So he's like doubling down, saying that that is a fundamental brand promise from Xbox. So that's more insight, much more of an in-depth sort of answer, I would say, to that. So it does seem that they're committing to that. But like you said, how it's operated, how it's rolled out is just sketchy in the first place.
My viewpoint on that is because he's using the Play Anywhere as a shield. So he can say that it's still supporting backwards compatibility, but you may not get that on a console. They may just turn around and say you can only, you will own these in every other area. They're technically offering backwards compatibility, but it'll just be for PC and moving forward with that hardware, of never leaving that in the dust. But they'll have a finite amount of time that you can have it on a console before they stop supporting it. Is what that feels like.
Well, and here's the thing: is like there's a cost for that. And that, I mean, like let's look at like the other online, you know, uh, marketplaces. Like Nintendo shut down the Wii and the DS and the 3DS online markets because it costs money. Like server space costs money, bandwidth costs money, and if if it's not profitable enough, if like suddenly it's like, well, yeah, we're 80% in the red on the Xbox 360 online store. I mean, from a business standpoint, that doesn't make sense. Now, like, yeah, if you're right, if they do convert it to PC, that's a little bit more understandable and sustainable and stuff like that. And I mean, they could even turn around and like just say, you know what, anyone who has any of this online stuff, we're actually shifting it all to Steam. And oh, by the way, if you link your Xbox account to your Steam account, everything will auto-populate and you'll get everything. That's not a perfect situation, but it's an easier pill to swallow.
Mm.
Totally. Yeah. So I think I agree with the concerns, no doubt. I do think you have to at least acknowledge the fact that you can't play PS3 games on the PS5 unless you do it through streaming. You know what I mean? You can play Xbox 360 games on a Series X. Implementation, I agree. It's not perfect at all. But I do think being asked directly in that interview and saying it's fundamental to our brand, that at least gives me some sort of reassurance, which, like you guys talked about, they hinted. I mean, they said that we'll see more about the next generation of consoles from Xbox this winter. They said that directly in the 20-minute show. So like, I don't think Xbox is leaving the console market. I don't think
No.
the 10th generation. I think we will see an Xbox Series Y or whatever the hell they call it. We'll see that. And I also do believe, you can call me a fool, but I really do believe that backwards compatibility and your purchases, like I think that it wasn't laid out incredibly well here, and that's the problem with these vague, just sort of promises that aren't really promises. You can kind of backtrack on that commitment, but it did feel like I got the impression that he was trying to ensure you that your digital library, your trophies, or your achievements, that entire ecosystem was going to be kept intact for, the foreseeable future, which I can commend them on that.
Well, I mean, they've already linked it to PCs and stuff. So it's really not like, I mean, they've already proven that they can jump ship to other places and carry everything that you have for the most part. I'm sure there's probably something out there that someone in the comments down below will say, hey, this doesn't jive when you swap back and forth and everything. And that's to be expected. Nothing is 100%. Hell, even PlayStation was not 100%. With the PlayStation 2, it is not 100% backwards compatible with the PS1. There are certain games that just crash. So it's just like, so they can promise us a lot of things, but we have to keep our expectations realistic. But I think they could actually, like they've proven it in the past.
Yes,
you move from Xbox 360 to the next generation, and all of your digital purchases went with you, and so like one account where your digital purchases get to follow you all the way through to your next console. Xbox right now is the only one who's really doing it.
Yeah. The only titles that didn't make it were the Kinect titles because they stopped supporting it, and I think like, it was like 5 titles in total from a digital library that didn't function on the Series X. But that that's an incredible conversion rate compared to the 360.
And let's be honest, they didn't work on the original hardware that well either.
Good.
Well, guys, I want to, and there's so much here to really dive through and pick apart. I think the thing that people are going to come to this video and wonder about the most are the 4 games. When I mean, I literally laughed out loud when I heard it. It's hard not to laugh. Like it's hard not to laugh just at the concept of saying it. You have this entire event structured around you losing exclusivity, and you do announce that you're losing exclusivity for
Mm.
4 games, but not giving insight into what the 4 games are.
He
It's
sucks
a
at poker, I can tell you that. He's Jesus Christ. Because
dude
everyone
that
knows what them 4 games are. It doesn't take a genius to work out.
it hit me
Well,
with them.
no,
Let
no,
me.
it's going to be the ones that are the most profitable, right? Like this is a money decision.
I don't
I
think
don't
so.
I don't think
I
so
think the
either.
opposite.
I think
Really?
it's I
Yeah,
think he used the key terms of a community. So the community games that we've got at the moment would be Sea of Thieves and Grounded.
bingo.
They're the two like online exclusives in quotation marks that on other consoles, on other like on PlayStation, for instance. And by putting them on there, that would extend their lives. And then the other two, which he said wouldn't be down that like avenue, so more of a single player focused game, would probably be Hi-Fi Rush and Pentiment.
Yeah, that's what I agree with. And then they did go on to say Starfield and Indiana Jones were not
Yeah, just off the table for the time
that.
being.
That was the best thing. And then shout out to Tina Amini. Obviously, I'm sure the question got okayed, but that's a good question, and that's a question that a lot of people had because uh, I also will say this and whatever, but like we got to start, checking some of these rumors at the door and kind of being like, all right, certain people we're just not going to listen to anymore. I'm not saying track records are starting to get a little hairy there, but here's the thing that I will say to contradict myself is it seems like this is a fluid situation. It seems like a lot of things are changing rapidly. I think if Hi-Fi Rush goes over to PS5 and sells like hotcakes, goes to Switch, sells like hotcakes, Indiana Jones, Starfield, a lot of those other games are going to be back on the table. I will say that. So maybe there is internal conversation and people are just reporting on that. But yeah, I agree with you, Looney. I think it's going to be those 4 games exactly.
Yeah, but you're also right, Brandon. There is that shut up money where it's just like, I mean, there's a number. Let's be honest. Microsoft is a business. They are a little bit greedier than most American businesses. Um, if and who says that like there might be negotiations behind closed doors where it's like suddenly Sony says, you know what, we want Starfield, but we want Starfield to only be with us, and we'll give you X amount more dollars to make that happen. Or we want Hi-Fi Rush a year longer before it hits the Switch.
Oh, I
That's
could see
something I
that.
could see. Yeah, I could see them scrapping over. Yeah, lengths,
Timed
especially
exclusivity, yeah.
especially with Sony, because Jesus Christ, the amount of like they can't compete with them toe to toe with like acquisition, so they just
Oh
undercut us
no.
with fucking yeah, we have this for a year, we have this for a year, we have this for a year, and stuff like that. So that
Dude,
Yeah,
that's definitely on the table for that. Absolutely.
not to go off on a tangent. Did you see the report? PlayStation not having a first party release until April of 2025, not having like a big temple. April of
Yeah,
2025? And then
that's
I
that's crazy. Helldivers is carrying them till then, and Rise of the Ronin.
yeah, which neither first party. And they like you said, they do a good job of money hatting, they do a good job of picking out their exclusive partners, but I'll listen. We're sitting here ridiculing the hell out of Xbox. I I can't believe the response to people seeing that about PlayStation and be like, oh well, I have a big backlog anyway. If Xbox announced they were gonna have no first party releases until April of 2025, like no big first party releases until April of 2025, it would be a news cycle for months on end, just ripping them to shreds, and they would deserve it. And PlayStation deserves it too. They only had Spider-Man 2 in 2023.
Mm.
And that was Insomniac, the same developer that's just been carrying this entire generation. Where the
But
hell is Blue Point? Where the hell is Naughty Dog? Where is Sucker Punch? Where are these teams? Where is Sony Bend? What is going on? It's imploding, and nobody's gonna like look at it.
I
It's
I'm not
crazy.
I'm not so sure they're imploding. So there's this classic thing that happens between businesses when two competitors decide to start playing dirty tactics. And one of the things that I watched several companies do was one company is doing really good and they're like out ahead in the race and stuff, and then there's the other company that's lagging behind and they're second place, and then you watch the second place person drop down to like eighth place for a whole year, and then they come around and buy first place and just absorb them. Now, I'm not saying Sony's going to do that, but Sony's saving money for a reason. They're not doing this for a reason. It's not like someone threw a dart at a board or something and said, "Yeah, let's just wait until that." No, no, this is very calculated. This is very like purposeful. There's a reason behind it. We don't know what it is. I don't know if they're going to turn around and just start offering money. Maybe they're not developing the exclusives. They're just going to be buying. They're concentrating on buying stuff from Microsoft.
Yeah,
Well,
that could be the case
For this
yeah.
whole next year. Like, we're just going to keep buying and bidding stuff from Microsoft. It's like they're going to sell it to us at a discount because Nintendo's not going to have the money that they're going to want.
And they know they have
that
the
might be their
biggest
attitude.
install base as well at this current point. So
Yeah,
as what they said in the video, you want your games going to the largest audience, and that's just a fact. So they have that pull power.
yeah.
Microsoft may have the money, but they can't keep that there for all the time. They like the money will eventually be meaningless if they could have made that money on other platforms with more player base.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean it goes back to money. It's
I don't
yeah.
want to. I don't
I
want to.
think Sony's going to do that. To be honest.
Yeah. I don't want to beat a dead horse because I've done it so much on my channel. But like, dude, these games are in active development. I mean, Naughty Dog's they got their game canceled. The Factions just got canceled. Factions Online got canceled. And now they got another thing. Sony Bend, they've had their game in development for a while. Sony London's had their game in development for a while. Fair Games, we know about these games. So they're ongoing, they're in production, they're in development. Where are they? Where's Concord?
My predict like the knee-jerk reaction to that is they want to be so cautious as well. It's so expensive making games now. Because I mentioned it to you with like Immortals of Avium. It wasn't a bad game. Like I'm at 6 hours for it myself. It was a complete wrong decision for them to have budgeted that in this day and age because it was doomed to fail. Like it was never going to sell well. The same with the Callisto Protocol, like you used as an example. They're good games, but they just don't sell in comparison to how much budget you're putting into that. So that's what it feels like is that maybe they have these games in development, but they're trying to find a way to either drop how much budget they put into them and stretch it out over a longer period of time. Because you can't be releasing these on a yearly basis anymore. It's just not sustainable. You can't put these out constantly because you'll just cannibalize your own product as well on top of that.
But my problem with that, and I agree with you, Loon, but my problem is if this was Xbox and someone said that same statement, Phil Spencer's job would be in question, Matt Booty's job would be in question. There'd be all these assumptions of mismanagement. And that's like I
Yeah,
just don't
It's the culture
understand.
they created
and it's
and the expectations
what
of the
they've
customer
given
base they have.
what they've given in the past. They kind of get that little bit of a free pass at the moment. They haven't had PS4's generation was incredible lineup of titles, like
Unbelievable.
incredible. And PS3 in the beginning was slow, but they picked it up towards the end, and it ended up being an incredible console in the end. PS5, it's starting off slow. This might just be another PS3 thing where they just come out all guns blazing towards the end of the generation. Because on top of that, we're seeing a shift in the industry of where it doesn't actually matter if you cross over your generations. It's not as big of a deal because you can just have both versions at the same time. you don't have this thing where Assassin's Creed 4, when it was launching on Xbox One and 360, they're two completely separate versions of the game.
Yeah.
So that takes two different teams to be designing these things. So they're probably not in any rush. If they have to wait like a year, like you said, what was it, 2025? They're
Yeah.
in no rush. They've got a good enough backlog, as it were, and a few titles coming out this year from third-party developers that will just keep the people, happy for the
Well,
time being.
and they can remaster anything.
Yeah, that's also a
I mean,
perfect
like,
tactic.
I mean, like, let's go back and we'll remaster this title. I mean, like, okay, a lot of people complain that PlayStation 3 games, you can't play them anywhere else except for a PS3. And like, what if they just decided, you know what, 2024, we're just going to go back and like start remastering a ton of PS3 titles and just bringing them
love
up to
that.
the 5?
Yeah, no, that would be incredible. That would be the perfect kick in the teeth for
Yeah.
Xbox. And a
Yeah,
response.
I'd love that.
Yeah.
And it's all new money.
Yeah. I
A hell
apologize.
of a lot cheaper.
Yeah, I have us off on a major tangent over here. Supposed to
That's
be
what we're here for. That's what we're here for. Picking brains.
ranting about damn PlayStation. I don't, dude. I'm just so not satisfied with that ecosystem at all, at all, at all. But hey, we're here to talk about Xbox. Not totally satisfied with that one either, which is such a bummer. It's like I sold my damn Switch at the wrong time. I'm gonna have to jump on the Switch 2 bandwagon. Okay, so let's kind of hop back for a second, and talking about those four games. I think that I agree with you, Looney. Pentiment, Hi-Fi Rush, Sea of Thieves, Grounded. I think those are the four. I find it very, very interesting. You can do you can do Sea of Thieves and Grounded, and it makes total sense to me. Hi-Fi Rush and Pentiment make no sense to me whatsoever. Like, there's no way to spin that other than these games either underperformed and we need more cash from them, or whatever or we want a bigger audience, whatever the case may be. That is, in my opinion, emblematic of waving the white flag a little bit. That is sort of crossing over where it's like, we're giving you our single player content that was exclusive. These two games are critically acclaimed Xbox exclusive titles, and now you get them too. So that's where the slippery slope really begins. I'll go ahead and kick it over. Loon, if you want this one, go ahead and tee it up.
Well, the thing that you mentioned there of them being critically acclaimed, I don't know how much you guys use the Xbox, but like there is not a single person on my friends list that have touched either of them games. So it's fine that they do critical numbers and stuff, but if they're not gelling with the player base and nobody's playing them, try them in a different ecosystem is probably what they're thinking, because the numbers are. It feels like they've really self-sabotaged themselves with Hi-Fi Rush, but I didn't ever see Pentiment gaining any momentum at all. That seemed like a very, very niche game.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah.
I mean, there was an Xbox exclusive a long time ago that jumped around, and it's Cuphead. That was locked onto the Xbox for the longest time, and then it went to PC, and then it jumped over to PS4, and then it's on the Switch and stuff. And like, it might not just be like them waving the white flag because they picked those games. Those games might actually, like Hi-Fi Rush, I don't see a Switch struggling to run that too much.
No.
It's possible. See, it's possible. Now, we're going to slap Starfield on the Switch. No, you're probably not. You're probably going to have a lot of conversion and a lot of work and all this. It's low-hanging fruit. Hey, this is easy to convert. That is easy to convert. So it's like, again, going back to money, these might just be the titles that are the most profitable to offer.
Yeah. Not only in the selling, like as you said, also porting them to them.
Yeah, I mean, like
getting it to Switch,
zero development. Yeah.
It wouldn't be hard to run these games on Switch at all. It's just easy money.
I had a theory whenever I was listening to this. Do you think there's anything in the fact that the Switch 2 is coming out, a Hi-Fi Rush Switch 2 launch? Like, I think that could move some real units. If the Switch 2, say, it launches with a new Mario Kart or a new 3D Mario, whatever it launches with, say there's somewhat light in terms of launch titles, having Hi-Fi Rush sitting there for the Switch 2 as a launch game.
Yeah, they have a decent partnership with Nintendo as well. So maybe they might have that information, but with how many leaks happens, I don't think they would entrust them with that information just yet.
Yeah.
It would all probably just be in very vague writing, like their videos.
M-
Nintendo's not really launched that many consoles that haven't had at least like 4 or 5 games that came out on the same day as the console. Um, and in some cases, they've had like one or two third party titles as well. And I guess yeah, Hi-Fi Rush would be good for a third party title, and like with that art style and stuff, they could have a special edition of the console that's painted up in that style.
Mm.
And I think
yeah.
people would go for that.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I'm gonna tell you one thing that kind of bums me out though about this, and I'm gonna sound like such a fanboy, but it is what it is. It's just the nature of these sort of discussions kind of lean towards console war stuff. But Returnal didn't perform well, and it's not going to Xbox. You know what I mean? Like there is something that sort of bums me out about that, where it's like, okay, I understand Hi-Fi Rush didn't do well, but it is still, and I love Hi-Fi Rush. It was, I think, number 7 or something in my top, 10 games of 2023.
Yep.
Love the game. But okay, it didn't do well. Fine. But then to shift it over, it opens up the floodgates for conversation to go exactly how we know it's going to go. As soon as Indiana Jones comes out, people are going to be going, well, I'll wait and I'll pick it up on PS5 when it comes to PS5. And I don't even think that's a bad move for PlayStation fans to have that assumption now, because the floodgates are now open. Do I buy a $500 box, or do I go, huh? It'll probably come at some point. Let me hold off.
Yeah, the ball will be in their court as to how far they push it. Like they seem to be testing the waters with these 4 games, which we have predicted. And if they do well, then they probably will go down that route. If they see that it backfires in their face, they may have to just rethink it and be like, okay, well then maybe we'll have to just keep doing this traditional sense of keeping it exclusive to the console side of things and just keep releasing it on PC. So
I think they overspent. I think Xbox overspent buying up all of these other developers.
yeah.
And this is them reacting to the consequence of losing a bunch of their liquidity.
Mm.
I think you're probably spot on, Moandain. I think that a lot of, if we do see this continue, I think a lot of this is going to be having to make up for $70 billion spent on Activision. That's an investment that was going to take decades to pay off.
Yeah, it just feels like a panic. Like like the bean counters are yelling at us because they see is red in the ledger. It's like, yeah, you just cornered the market almost. You're the largest, game publisher now, and you spent tons of money to make that happen.
Yep.
And it's like, and yes, it does make sense for them to shut down the hardware, because like I heard an estimate that it was like the profit on most consoles is around $5, and you kind of have to split that with the retailer. So the consoles aren't making anyone any money, and I mean they don't even make GameStop money when they're selling new consoles. They view it as advertisement to get people in the door.
Yep. Because it's the hardware that shifts the money. And they're obviously panicking because they're not shifting much not hardware, sorry, software
Yeah,
either. And this is why they're panicking and all hands on ships. Like they need to do something.
Yeah. I'm gonna jump in here real quick with another quote from this article that I find interesting. Talk going back to the you know now non-exclusive games, and Tom Warren asked, he said, you mentioned that Starfield and Indiana Jones aren't part of the four non-exclusive games that we speculate: Hi-Fi Rush, Pentiment, Grounded, Sea of Thieves. He said Starfield and Indiana Jones aren't part of the four, despite rumors, but will those ever come to PS5? Can you rule that out? And Phil Spencer says, I don't think we should, as an industry, ever rule out a game going to any other platform. We're focused on these four games and learning from the experience. But I don't want to create a false expectation on those other platforms that this is somehow the first four to get over the dam, and then the dam is going to open and that everything else is coming. That's not the plan today. I also don't want to mislead consumers on those other platforms. We're launching these four games and we're excited about it. We're excited about the announce. We're excited about the announce and everything else, but we'll see what happens for our business. So even there, it's still so nebulous. And the quote of um but I don't want to create where was it? That's not the plan for today to bring those games, Starfield and Indiana Jones, to other platforms, to PlayStation, etc. It's like, man, you're leaving so much room for speculation.
Yeah, so they can't
No,
be
no,
called out down the line. They're just playing it as safe as possible because they've seen with the leaks how big them fires got in such a small amount of time. Like
yeah,
your fan base can turn on you like that.
and like that whole thing that you read, what did he really say? Well, maybe, maybe not. Like, give me a break. He's just dancing around and not giving a real answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man's
But
acting like a politician. Um,
yeah.
and like, and I get it. I get it. If it comes from down on highs, like, hey, all of your tactics are not working, you have to make more money or you're going to have to start to shut things down, then he's left that out for himself. Um, I think that the two single player games were analyzed and they probably compared them against the other audiences, being Sony players and Nintendo players, and they said, you know what, we think their audience will be more receptive to these two single player games.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the community games, all that was is expanding the customer base so that you can justify keeping the servers going.
Hmm. No, but
Because
Totally.
that is the
they've
nail
got
on
to
the head.
pump those numbers. They've got
Yep.
to pump those numbers. Otherwise, they're going to start consolidating servers, and it's going to be like, well, we're not running 12 Sea of Thieves servers. We're now running 6, and we're consolidating all of this now, and we're
Mm.
like reducing and reducing and reducing. Because, but if they bring in all of the Sony people and they bring in all the Nintendo people, that's a bunch of microtransactions they can get to,
Mhm.
and that's going to help. Like, the sale of the game for Sea of Thieves is nothing. It's a drop in the bucket. It's not going to really. I mean, it's going to show profit for a quarter, maybe 2 quarters, and then after that, it's going to be, well, look, the microtransactions have increased. They're going to see a spike, and then it's
Yep.
going to kind of level off and everything. But that's literally what they're going for. Is they're casting a wider net for their whales in the microtransactions on those games.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I agree. I do think that I think that this just I, I think there is so much vagueness surrounding all of this that I don't think I guess we can kick that off. Looney, how do you feel leaving this, as you're really the Xbox fan of the three of us? You've been in the ecosystem for decades. Have enjoyed my Series X, but that's the first time I got in at launch. So like after watching that event, how are you feeling as a member of the community for, 2 decades?
Um, well, as we've obviously said again and again and again, it was very vague with what they said. Um, they haven't really promised anything that is positive, in my opinion, like just flat out positivity, like where they gave a complete W. The closest to that is kind of slipping in saying that Activision Blizzard games will come to Game Pass. So that is opening up saying that, that's every IP under that umbrella will be coming to Game Pass. That wasn't just saying Activision games, Activision Blizzard King. So everything will be eventually landing on the service, starting off with Diablo 4 for March 28th, I believe.
They said day one as well, didn't they? All ABK games day one, correct?
Yeah.
From this
Yeah.
point moving forward?
Yeah.
Did,
I did not expect that.
didn't they also mention that Game Pass is not leaving to go to other
Yeah,
platforms as
that's
well?
staying. That's just on Xbox, and I don't think that's
So,
of their own choice. I think they've been really
oh,
trying to push that down the throat of other
Yeah.
people, but they're not going to buy it. Like I said, I've said that before. It'll be suicide for Sony to take them up on that deal. That'll be the
Yes.
stupidest decision to make. So yeah, maybe the yearly Call of Duty release for this year will be A1 Game Pass, and it's what I alluded to of where they will just take the hit. I know it sells hotcakes, the actual release of the copy, but they will be getting that from every other platform. You can just play it and they will just recoup all of that. People will just be more incentivized to spend even more money on microtransactions. Like I know you said they already do that, but if you pick that up day one and you're like, well, I would have already spent 70 for this, I can just drop this straight into the store. And they will be thinking that. They will be tweaking it because they've tweaked it multiple times now over the past few years of these Call of Duty releases of making it more and more predatory because they introduced that whole battle pass system. And now you have a premium battle pass system on top of skins. So you have like multiple layers to this. And they know it's and they're just expanding it as much as they can, stretching it as wide as possible.
so they can be even more evil about it
Yep.
with microtransactions. They can quote offer a discount on Microsoft, and what they're really doing is they're just not adding the Sony tax and the Nintendo tax for the microtransactions.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
because if you've looked at certain games, like on PC, a microtransaction is $5. On Sony, it's $7 because
They need their
Sony's
cut.
charging an extra two. They need their cut. You're right. That's exactly on the money. And I mean, Apple does the same thing. Google does the same thing. You know, and if Microsoft turns around and says, you know what, we're gonna not only are we going to like give it away on Game Pass and everything, but our microtransactions on Game Pass for this game are going to be cheaper than
Yep.
trying to do it on Sony and stuff. Yeah, like that's they'll get called out for it and everything. And what they'll do is they'll pass the blame back to Sony and say, hey, we're not the ones that are we're not the ones that are taxing you extra.
Mm.
Sony just wanted their cut and everything, and like, sorry, it's not us, it's them. And they'll just claim victim.
I'm gonna stay on that thread there because this tying back to that interview, Tom Warren asks, I want to go back to something you mentioned in the FTC versus Microsoft case. You testified that putting Xbox games on PlayStation means that Sony uses that 30% cut, of the revenue that they get from those transactions to basically kill Xbox or undermine Xbox in certain ways. So why would you want to do more games on that platform if that's the case? And then this is actually very illuminating. Phil Spencer says, maybe this is why we're only doing 4. And he says he laughs, says, I'm going to learn more about this partnership with other platforms. I'm going to learn about what happens with our players. I think it will benefit the games that we're putting there, and that's good. That's a good thing for us. And if we can use other platforms that have gamers, and maybe some of those gamers don't want to play it on PC and don't want to play it on Xbox, and that can help us grow our business, with them playing it on PlayStation or Nintendo or whatever. He says if the net result is that other things are punitive to the Xbox platform and try to limit our growth, then we'll have to think more carefully about how we support those other platforms. So that's actually maybe
They're
the most
sacrificial
interesting.
lambs.
Yeah.
Oh my
Well,
gosh.
but I think
Yes.
I think it's interesting though that he's even in this interview saying straight up like we're gonna look at how they what
How they
Sony
treat us.
does,
Yeah.
yeah, with these four games, and we'll make our decision based off that. I think that's really, really just from a a mafia kind of moving pieces scenario like the Dawn. I'm gonna
Yeah.
watch how you play with our food over there.
It's why they didn't give them any big bites and only gave them small bites.
No, it's smarter than that. It's not like I'm watching you what you're doing with my food and stuff. It's I'm watching what you're going to do with this. Oh, and by the way, the world is watching too.
Mm,
Right, right.
It's a great way to give a public black eye.
That's true. It's on record.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
which
that.
they're
Wow,
good
that
at.
is a
Yeah.
smart move. That is a very smart move
And a
because
really
I
good
mean,
question.
it brings it to light. It definitely brings it to light because I know
Yeah.
like other companies who had online service games with microtransactions that were PC based, you move it over to Sony and it's like, well, yeah, you got to pay for PlayStation Online and you got to pay for this and you got to pay for that. And then there's the Sony tax on the microtransactions.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really good question because like I think a lot of fans are probably thinking about back to that FTC case going, wait, you said on record that the cut that PlayStation gets from y'all's money, they try to sabotage you with. Why are you going to continue this relationship moving forward? And that, yeah, so I thought that was really, really interesting insight. That's going to be wild to see how that just the relationship because now we have a new head of PlayStation and are we going to mend some fences here or we're going to start to see this relationship evolve like I don't know. Lenny, what do you think about the idea of kind of watching from afar going we're gonna keep our eye on you and we're gonna be open about it. I just haven't heard it so blatant before.
Well, like I said, they've always been the type of company to deliver these little digs, um, and try and put the fire underneath
Yeah.
Sony, like with the backwards compatibility thing. Like I said before, I think it was in the last episode, PlayStation wouldn't have bothered doing these ports things for their subscription service if Xbox didn't do the thing. They wouldn't have bothered at all. So them to say these types of things, it's not new. They just like riling them up, and they like to put these put these phrases down and then see, like you said, what's going to come of this, and how they're going to treat them is it will be interesting because
Well, no, it's solidifying their camp too.
mm,
Because like Xbox is very good at building a specific kind of community around themselves. And I could see Xbox fans looking at the way that Sony treats Xbox during all of this with that statement that he said, like, "Hey, we're gonna be watching to see how this all shakes out," kind of thing. And if Sony just comes along and just like guts them for the 30% and it just turns out to be horribly bad, how many diehard Xbox fans will say, I will never touch a Sony thing ever again in my life? Because they treated my side bad. They treated Microsoft bad, and by proxy, me bad.
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it's also what they offer as well, because something that a friend of mine had the biggest concern of is he's older, so his fingers, he uses the Elite controller for the paddles and stuff. They don't have an alternative on PlayStation that's comfortable and suitable for him. And he learned that if they were to shut down that hardware of Xbox, that wouldn't be compatible with a PlayStation console. So he would have to be out noping out of gaming. This is something that he's choosing to do in his retirement time. Like it's important for him, and they have a very big division dedicated to helping disability gamers as well with the adaptive controller, and it's really good things that they're doing. They're not just focusing on the average consumer, they are backing up their words with trying to get it to as many people as possible. So they need to be commended for these things as well.
And kind of tying right into that, how about we talk a little bit about these handheld rumors that we've been getting as of late. The article here says switching to the hardware side of this equation, you've mentioned that the new console and controller options are coming this holiday. Are those the leaked refresh models that we saw in the FTC documents? And Phil Spencer said, I don't know about any leaks. I don't know what you're talking about. And he laughed. But here is here's actually, I'm going to read these two more points and then I'll let y'all pick wherever you want to go. He said, well, you said they were old plans, so what's happening there? Is this what you're teasing? Phil Spencer laughs and says, we'll talk about things that are coming up. I will say I'm very proud of the work that the hardware team is doing, not only for this year, but also in the future. We're really thinking about creating hardware that sells to gamers because of the unique aspects of the hardware. It's kind of an unleashing of the creative possibilities, capabilities of our hardware team that I'm really excited about. And then Tom Warren goes on to ask, does that involve a handheld? You keep liking loads of tweets about handhelds. Phil Spencer says, I'm a big fan of handhelds. And he laughs, says, I'm a big fan, but nothing to announce. So it's I don't know, man. I don't that kind of seems like a pretty dead giveaway that we're getting a handheld at some point, some sort of Xbox handheld.
My knee-jerk reaction to that is I don't think it's going to be in the way that most people think it will. I don't
Yeah.
think they'll do the traditional with a Switch or a Steam Deck. I don't
Nope,
think that they
they
will do
won't.
that because that will just further cannibalize their own console. I
It's
think with
it.
them pushing so hard with cloud, that's what they're putting their chips into. It will be a cloud-based handheld device that can either stream games directly to it, or you have your console on and you're able to do it that way and be streaming it from the console to the handheld.
I'm in the same boat. It's going to be Xbox Live in your hand.
I want to throw this in to see if it changes y'all's opinion at all. He says, so, okay, what keeps people from playing games at certain hours? Well, there's sleep, school, and kind of normal life, but some of it is just access. Do I have access to the games I want to play right now? Obviously, we're kind of learning from what Nintendo has done over the years with the Switch. They've been fantastic with that. So when I look at Steam Deck and the ROG and My Legion Go, I'm a big fan of that space. We do have real work. One of the weak points in the experience on a ROG or the Legion Go is Windows. How Windows works on controller input only on that kind of DPI on a smaller 8 or 7 inch screen. That's a real design point that our platform team is working with Windows to make sure that experience is even better. So I don't know to even mention Switch, Steam Deck, and I mean, obviously, I'm not saying it's going to be a straight up native device, but I find it interesting that he even brought those other, handhelds into the equation.
Well,
Like
I
that
mean,
was him.
okay, it might be just a weird enough thing to where it's like, yes, you have your device, you're holding it, and you can play games on it and stuff, and it might have a limited amount of memory on it where it's like you can download these games from the live service and install them locally, and they might put a timer on it where it's like, you know what, this thing has to check into the internet
Yeah, like
X
Netflix.
once every couple of days to make sure that you still have a license and that you're still active, you're still paying your subscription. So there might be like a 5-day license essentially that you download while you install the 3 games that you can install on your handheld device. You know,
My only hesitation to that
yeah,
is how big they are. nowadays. These aren't no longer any games that are, just for instance, even what released Banishers Ghost of New Eden, a fairly lower tier game. That game was like 56 gigabytes for something that's so linear and so much more compact, isn't pushing hardware to its limits. So putting something like even like on Starfield in the hundreds, it'd be very difficult to be able to download them because you got to think the more space it needs, the more expensive that memory
Oh
is going to
yeah.
be inside of that device.
And I have a feeling that they're going to show up with like, here's minimum specs. It has a 1 terabyte with an M2 slot so that you can slot in like an 8 terabyte or something. And who knows, like when this comes out with the way that technology keeps on expanding. I mean, like, what was it? Like a couple of years ago, the petabyte came out, the petabyte
Yeah,
drives.
yeah.
And it's just like, no one ever thought that was possible.
Mm.
And now it exists, and there are businesses buying them and installing them in network area storage. you know so like, you know getting a 12 terabyte M2 stick that installs in and is like, that could like fit on a keychain. Like, it's possible. It might run really hot, but like, it's definitely possible. Like, until we run up against Ohm's law again, um, I don't I don't really worry about storage that much.
Mm.
It's amazing. Like, what, 2014, 2 terabyte drives were like the big thing, and now it's like people look at a 2 terabyte drive and they're like, no, I've got like a 4 terabyte in my PS4. It's like,
Mm.
yeah, people aren't prioritizing their consoles for large things like that. So I don't think space is going to be really that much of an issue.
Yeah, I just hope they're just not
All
phoning
digital
in.
future is the thing I'm scared of.
Oh, God,
Yeah.
that
Well,
can of worms.
before we transition to that, I just wanted to say, like, my iPhone. I got the 1 terabyte iPhone because I do a lot of my editing for the videos and stuff on the iPhone while I'm at work and stuff, and I never wanted to think about storage space. And like, so I'm not a tech guy, but you're essentially telling me I could fit 9 or 10 Starfields on my iPhone if I had nothing else on there, Like, is that's the case, right? Like, I could download 9 100 gigabyte games and still have another 100 gigabytes to go. Like, that's crazy to think about that. Just that capability on an iPhone. Am I right on that?
For the most part, I mean, like in layman's terms, yes.
Yeah.
There's a certain amount of like, you would get 8 just to because the hardware has to have enough space to know what it is.
Okay. But so essentially, though, what I'm saying is like, I think we have, because a phone is so much more than just a device to download games onto. So it's like, if we're getting to that point alone with phones where we're seeing Resident Evil 4, the remake just running on an iPhone, and Death Stranding, it's like, this is mind-boggling. So we have to be pushing to a point where handheld gaming is going to become so much more accessible for these much bigger titles. And like, I don't know, I if it is all streaming or whatever, I mean, I'm immediately out. If it's like the portal, the PlayStation portal, it's like, I don't care about that at all. But if I could natively download Starfield and run it on a handheld, are you kidding me? I'll be fired
Yeah,
in a week.
it's an absolute possibility. The only reason I was saying pushing it that is it'll be streaming so bad is obviously their fingers in the cloud servicing and going so heavily into that, and the fact
Totally.
that the price
Yeah,
as well. Because you look at what was it, the Steam Deck just got a refresh recently, didn't it? An upgraded screen and a little bit more,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think, storage or something, and even that's coming at like £1,000 over here. Like
yeah. It's, I mean,
that's
like, I'm not gonna say that it's gonna be cheap. it's going to be an absolute luxury item.
Mm.
And like the way that they were talking about their future hardware, which I think they were kind of alluding to their home console for the next generation, and how it's going to be, quote, leaps and bounds beyond everything else. It's like, well, okay, I know what that means. That means that they're catching up to PC specs. They're going to have a graphics card that has DDR6 RAM in it. They're going to have, all of these other things. They're going to go hard at like multi-core processing and trying to take advantage of that more.
Yeah.
I mean, like, let's be honest, consoles are essentially, like, if you strip them down and take out the operating system and stuff, they're computers.
They're much closer to PCs now than they ever have been in the past.
Yeah, I mean, like the PlayStation 2 and the original Xbox, you could run Linux on them. I mean, you could buy a kit from Sony in Japan to run Linux on your PS2. It's
It's comfort gaming too, like
yeah.
it's you're willing to sacrifice performance and power for a little bit more form factor, comfortability, and not having to upgrade it on a constant basis. Like there is
Removing that fear.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's so much tech knowledge that just goes into having a PC in general, having to know the ins and outs, how to update it and all that. But so I do think though the Apple model is interesting, where, okay, because my phone is crazy expensive, but
Mm.
I don't pay for it. I pay for it monthly. You know what I mean? Like I don't pay the full $3,000 or $2,000 or whatever it is. I don't even know what it costs because I pay for it monthly. So is there like any way to Microsoft to create some division like that?
Yeah, no, bundle that thing in with Game Pass.
Yeah. Suddenly,
Game
like,
Pass,
well,
tie that in,
bang.
and boom,
Yep,
you can
Game
sell
Pass plus $20 a month,
it. Yeah.
and it's like, oh, and we'll discount your Game Pass if you buy it all a year ahead of time and everything, and you
Mm.
just pay us the $20 a month for the hardware and stuff. And oh yeah, you'll get it paid off in 5 years. It'll yeah. Oh my gosh, they could definitely do that and get
Yeah,
away with it. People do it with
that is
phones
it.
all the time. Oh
Yep.
my god. Oh
Yep.
god, they're
Yeah.
gonna
Because
do
you're
it.
paying, yeah, you're paying the phone, but you're also paying the contract tied to it of, text, minutes, and internet. So that is a model that they could absolutely flirt with.
Well, and it's like
Oh,
obviously Steam can't really do that because they don't have Microsoft behind them. Even PlayStation can't really do that because I mean they have Sony, but that's not Microsoft. This is a $3 trillion company. The only other $3 trillion, well, I think Apple's like 2.7 trillion. So it's like you have to have that sort of backing to be able to create something like that. And I mean, they're known for doing risky shit. Game Pass is it's a total never before seen risk to put your first party developed games day one onto a subscription service that only costs you $15 a month. Like it's lunacy from every possible aspect of looking at it, but it disrupts the status quo. And I think they have been known to disrupt the status quo. The original Xbox, the first ever uh, console that allowed you to play online video games with someone across the damn country. Like they've
Mm.
been known to innovate in these spaces. So I don't know, just a interesting thought. I got to take a piss. I'm going to let y'all two ramble, and I'll be right back.
oh man. Wow. God, oh my gosh. It is wow. They're gonna finance it.
Yeah, that's
That's that's
definitely
that's that's the workaround. They're gonna kill the Steam Deck with that.
they could do. They very much could do because there's not a payment option unless you're obviously paying with a credit card, I believe. Like Steam doesn't offer financing, I don't believe, to
No,
Steam.
no. And who says they have to do the financing?
Yeah,
They
that
can
is.
turn around and say, yeah, these things come with cell modems now, and if you want the cell modem like you can buy the standard version that doesn't have the cell modem, and it's cheaper, but you have to pay all the money up front, or you can buy the cell modem version, kind of like what the Vita did,
Yeah.
and it's oh yeah, you're buying the AT&T version or the T-Mobile version of our thing, and they're financing it. we're getting all of our money up front, but you're paying for a contract, and oh my god, oh my god, they're gonna
Why
do it.
why did he open this? Why did he open this floodgate?
They're so gonna do this. This is insane.
We can say we claimed it first. We can look great.
Oh, we saw it first, but they're gonna. Oh my god, because cell phone companies have proven the model, so they've proven that model since early 2000. It's a proven business model
Yeah, no, I would say
for more than
100%.
20 years.
I've never paid for a phone in full ever. They're just too expensive.
Oh my god.
So it's a
Yeah.
model that absolutely makes sense.
So we were talking about how they were going to finance this, and I think we hit the nail on the head. There's going to be another version of the handheld system that comes out that has a cell modem in it, and they're going to let T-Mobile and AT&T sell and Sprint sell them, and they're going to handle the financing,
Dude, that is brilliant.
and they're just going to get straight paid. That's it.
Because if you go into Verizon and stuff now, there's already like Xboxes sitting up there that you
Yeah.
can buy and
And
stuff.
there
So
and
like,
there's iPads. Maybe it will be Verizon because they've already got that partnership.
yeah, dude,
They
that's interesting.
they've already established a partnership. And we were talking earlier, like, or just a second before you sat back down, like the cell phone companies have this down pat. They've been doing it for more than 20 years.
It's not a risky way of financing it. It's a proven model that makes them money.
Dude, and if you say there is some, internet requirement, if you have like 5G constantly active on the device or something, then you're not really in need. Like if you're on the
They
bus or whatever,
can
you can play
they
through
can guarantee
5G.
Yeah.
it. They can
Yeah,
guarantee it because they're a network provider, so it's even more buzz.
dude,
Jesus
that's
Christ.
we might have
And
just
they're
become
and they're
billionaires.
oh my god, no, they've already thought of this. They've
Yeah,
they have already thought of this because the Xbox is already in cell phone company
totally,
stores.
totally.
So
Yep.
like that is them establishing a
And that's
relationship
I want to.
already.
It's not even just a US thing either. Because when I was out and about, I think it was yesterday or the day before, I ended up walking past a phone shop and they're proudly displaying that they're partnered with Xbox Series X. Pick it up, get your internet, and you get it
Wow,
bundled with it now. And it's just
wow.
like, Jesus
Oh my
Christ.
god. Oh.
That could be a wave that is like, but once again, you have to have cash like on the level of a Microsoft to
Mm.
invest in that kind of, the base startup of that and, to market it and to get it into Verizon's across the world. Um, man, that's interesting. That is really, really interesting.
And it's such a great way for them to disguise the cost of
Yep.
how expensive it is to get those things. Because like if you look at a cell phone, like iPhone, I'm going to buy it straight out, and they quote you the price, and you're like, oh my god, there's no, I don't, I'm not going to pay $2,000 for this phone. Are you insane? But if they tell you, well, it's only going to bump up your bill by $20 for the next 5 years, that kind of
Exactly.
softens the blow,
Mm.
and it's like, and and the more insane thing about it is all of those cell phone companies will not even have to tack on any kind of like interest on that quote loan
Right.
or payment plan because they're getting money by selling you the 5G service. That's where their
Exactly.
profits coming in.
Yeah. Oh God.
That could take Xbox to a different level. That really, really could. That could take them to a different level that even because I mean the Switch, the PSP, like handhelds, there's a real the Steam Deck, there's a real market for handhelds. But
Yeah.
to even go above that to like a whole different level of where they're almost as ubiquitous as cell phones, or maybe not quite on that level, but a step or two below it, like that's yeah, man. That's really, really fascinating to think about. Y'all have
Jesus
any more thoughts on that? Because
Christ.
there's a couple
That's
more things I want
scary.
to hit on.
Mhm.
There's a couple more things I want to hit on from this interview before we bounce out of here. Do y'all have any more thoughts on the handheld thing before we jump
Now
to
we can wrap that
totally
up.
different?
No,
Okay.
just that it's scary that that
Mm,
the idea of just financing it 100% is possible.
Yeah. I kind of like it, man. I kind of like that idea. I do. But what's it from a business standpoint, but also from a consumer standpoint, throw me a $40 subscription. I'll pay that. I happily pay that to keep Game Pass and then do some handheld gaming. Abso-freaking-lutely. But speaking of Game Pass, did y'all hear they slipped in 34 million just
yeah,
just real casually?
that was underlined 3 times for me. I think that's one of the very, very few times that they've actually given us any metrics as to what it is.
Yeah. What do you think about
So,
that, Looney? 34 million.
I mean, that's a healthy number. Like, that's not nothing to slouch at. You think with the different tiers and stuff, like that's a lot of money generating on a monthly basis. Like,
I wonder if they
that's
said that just to get it out there for even investors.
yeah, that's an investor talk, absolutely. But
Yeah.
it's still nice to know that there's at least that many people in the ecosystem. Um, and hopefully they can maintain it because the thing that I mentioned before as well is that the reason it did so well towards the end of last year when they were saying December and stuff, you're talking you give these like 3 month trials and stuff. So toward maybe people sat on these trials, Starfield come out, you get these big spike in numbers because people aren't paying and they're also playing Starfield in that time. But how many of them actually stay subscribed? That's the most important thing. Rolling into January, so it's a
Yeah,
decent, healthy number there.
Moandain, you have any thoughts on 34 million?
that's a big number. I mean, like, um, there's there's a chance that it'll go up just because I'll be honest, like when I want to like resubscribe to any of my like online services or anything like that, I want to do that with my tax return money.
Bulk
Um,
payment.
yeah, just bulk payment it out, like pay for the whole year, and not have to do anything. Um,
So you're not a monthly guy
I'm
for the most
definitely
part.
not a monthly guy. I try my best not to. Like, even my car insurance, I pay like twice a year.
What about you, Brandon? Are you more of a monthly, just out of curiosity?
Oh yeah, I pay monthly. I just barely get by. I just
Yeah,
barely,
brother.
barely getting by.
Eating
Hey,
that tofu.
let me hit you with this. This is from statista.com. This is fascinating. I looked at PlayStation Plus subscribers. For PlayStation Plus Essential, there's 33.3 million, but for PlayStation Plus Extra and PlayStation Plus Premium, there's 6 million in PlayStation Plus Extra and 8 in PlayStation Plus Premium, which those are kind of the competitive services to Game Pass. I would say Plus Extra and Plus Premium. Dude,
I
that's really low.
even then those numbers are inflated because uh, you got to remember you can buy all of that stuff way ahead of time.
Oh, for sure.
And Sony had a recent, well, I say recent, it was like last year, a recent bump in the price. And like you could buy like what a maximum of like anywhere from 2 to 4 years out.
That's because they
So
learned from
people,
Microsoft's mistake because people when they added that the promotion where they was like whatever your gold is, we'll just turn it into Game Pass Ultimate 1 to 1,
yeah,
and people were just like, okay, well I'll buy 15 years of it. And they were like, oh, okay.
you're like, oops. So like what's going to happen? Like the question is what's going to happen when people actually have to pay the real price?
Mm,
Like I don't think we're seeing an accurate measure of the market because people found workarounds to save money. Now, when people start getting hit with the real cost of things, that's when the rubber is going to hit the road.
yeah, because I
Yeah,
canceled my Netflix.
I did
Yeah,
Like
too.
like
same here.
the only thing I keep on a monthly thing for them, subscription things is Amazon Prime because I'm just a shill and will constantly buy physical games off them because they make it so easy.
Oh yeah.
And Game Pass because it's obviously the platform of choice. But yeah, PlayStation, I don't really have that going on a monthly thing because I have no reason to. Don't for Netflix because there's no point
Yeah.
unless I'm
Yeah.
going to use it.
I'm with you. I cut a lot of that stuff out. I cut Disney Plus,
Mm.
Netflix, Hulu. I had all that shit. I'm an idiot. And anytime you tell me $5 for something, I'm just like signing up for it. And then I'm like, oh yeah, paying $200 a month and $5 a month things.
Yeah,
But no, it's 34 million is a healthy number. I don't think that number is anywhere near what they wanted it to be at this point.
no,
And I think that is for sure worrying. You know what I mean? I think that not the 34 million. I think that the expectation or the goal of that 50 illustrious 50 million and then even heard talks of 100 million way back in the day, which haven't been uttered again since. But
no. They were like, "Shut up."
yeah,
Yeah.
like that it ain't happening. It ain't happening. And I think that that is a big factor into why a lot of these moves are taking place. But I think that it's fascinating that Call of Duty is still going to Game Pass. I really think that that's going to be the testament. After Call of Duty releases into Game Pass, if those numbers don't jump up significantly, then
Oh,
it's
they
totally
absolutely
plateaued.
will. No, they absolutely will. I don't. You guys obviously don't play it, but they have a. I can't. It's either a week or 2 week window where you get exclusive early access.
Oh,
I don't know if
yeah.
that still stands with PlayStation. I know they signed a really long contract with them, but with that, when that finally expires, or if that is expiring this year, for instance, having that access then move to Game Pass, you will generate so many more because they are addicts. They are just
They're
addicts. It is that
addicts.
they will
Yeah.
just move and they will be like, okay, and then you will see that huge shift. I think that's what they're waiting for. When that contract expires, they will just cash in on that because then a huge you'll see millions, and that's not a hot take. I don't think that is a realization that they'll be like, oh well, we have all these people waiting, and they will just flock over because they can't wait. You see it with the
Yeah.
sports games every
That's
single
it's
year.
Oh, yeah.
instant gratification.
Yeah, and FOMO. They don't want to
Yeah.
know that other people are having fun and they're missing out on it.
Well, yeah, or like with the Call of Duty, where it's just like, oh man, someone got like 2 weeks to level up,
Mm.
Yes.
their class or whatever before I did, and
Yep.
it's like now I'm behind, and oh, it makes them mad, and they tie it in with their ego and everything, and it's just you're smirking
Eh.
because you know I'm right.
No, absolutely. No, 100% right. That is exactly what it is. And yeah, so it's interesting. I don't know, like I said, if that contract is still in place or if that's been voided or what. So
Oh
if that
my
is the
god,
case for this year, that will be a huge amount of players if that's the case,
people
because
will
they will
not
do
be
that.
able to help themselves.
No.
It'll just
Yeah.
happen.
Mm.
Yeah, and that's why whenever it first happened, I shouldn't say I predicted. I don't know what I predicted. I don't remember, but like I was wondering if they would just make Call of Duty exclusive because those fans are gonna play Call of Duty. No matter they'll buy the $500 box to play Call of Duty.
Yeah, they would.
And so I
But it
found
would
that
completely contradict the kind of image that they're trying to craft of giving it everywhere for
yeah.
whoever. So I think that's still on the table. If it completely backfires with going everywhere and still nobody touches their thing, then they have that option of just being like, well, we tried that. We'll just go back to the traditional methods. And then they could go down that aggressive route of being like, okay, we're pulling all of these off. Because by then, all of this smoke that's been generated from the scare of them acquiring Activision and maybe everything being made exclusive would have died down heavily.
Yeah, well, because they have that contract in place for the next like 7 years or
Yeah,
whatever. So it's like wait 7 years,
exactly.
reanalyze, and I mean in that 7 years time, you're going to be profiting out the ass just off of Activision content alone, just off of Call of Duty alone. Really, like that's Activision and King are the players. You know what I mean? Blizzard
Yeah,
is like Blizzard, you got some stuff going there. You're gonna, it'll churn you out some revenue. Activision and King, Call of Duty and King. It's not Activision, it's Call of
Yeah.
Duty and King. Call of Duty and Candy Crush.
Yep. That is it.
Yeah. So I Moandain, you have anything you want to hit on there? Because I want to get you to weigh in on some physical game
Oh,
discussion going on here
well,
because I know that's a big one that you
so so just weighing in on like all the like whether or not this is going to pan out for them or
well,
um
there was the rumor that they were going to lay off pretty much the entirety of their physical games division. That Microsoft was going to lay off pretty much the entirety of their physical games division. That it does seem, with the leaks of the Xbox console being digital only, the next one, just it seems that Xbox is heavily, and then retailers are moving Xbox physical games
yeah.
from their storefront. There just seems to be a lot of smoke, and the fire seems pretty imminent.
Yeah, I just
So.
wanted to add quickly to that because obviously I have a bit of information.
Yeah.
They've been putting up on Amazon games that will be coming out PlayStation, Xbox, and the Xbox disappears. On the day of release, it's not accessible. And one of that was Scorn, for instance. So technically it was printed, but it's no longer printed. So it's basically they printed up until the point of release and then they stop. And I don't understand it. That is a really bizarre way of doing it because that doesn't seem profitable at all.
At all.
Because it
I
still to
mean,
this day isn't available.
but did people who ordered it ahead of time, did
Yep,
they get their copies?
yep,
Okay.
yep. And
So
that's what I mean. It's
they're literally
extremely bizarre.
doing no. They're doing the limited run
You
model.
think?
Yeah.
It would be nice if they
Give
came out
us
and said that.
your
Yeah.
money now or lose out forever.
Yeah, but they're not communicating that, and that's what's worrying. If they were to turn around and say, "Look, we're only going to print a limited," I would be fine with that. I would just accept
Well,
that. Okay,
that
they'll be considered collectibles and everything.
that's well, that would be painting them in a corner because right now, if they don't communicate it and they just yank it, people
Mm,
just get confused and they move on,
yeah.
or they just buy it digitally. But if they turn around and said, "Hey, this is going to be a limited print run," and then they see the numbers and they're like, "You know what? We think we can get some more money out of this if we reprint it again." Then they've made a promise. Now they're breaking it.
Yeah.
So like right now they are leaving themselves the most amount of wiggle room that they can pry out of people's hands.
Yeah. I think that I really don't have a ton to add on that. I think that that's exactly it. I think that they're not communicating this clearly because obviously the plans aren't going to leave people feeling positive after having a such a vague response to pretty much everything throughout this entire podcast. Like, yeah, what's the point of adding another vague response? Because I feel like it would be the same thing. But I think, Looney, what you said earlier is like, if you're going, because even like, let's just say they went strictly through limited run. Let's say that they cut off their physical games division and, we're like, we don't need to keep this in house. We're going to put our premier titles strictly through limited run. And, that's where you're going to get the release of Indiana Jones physical. That's where you're going to get the release of Avowed physical. And Avowed has to have a physical copy. That box art is so
Mm.
sick. But anyways, if they did that, right? And we would have clarity, then it's like, okay, well, at least we can prepare for that future.
And that's what I just want communication because they came out and said that they partnered with Limited Run. They've given
Exactly.
us less than 10 titles with Limited Run. I'm getting emails on a daily basis of Limited Run things that are being sold. All we got was like Doom, Psychonauts was on there, and like a very, very small amount. They even cancelled, I think, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for Xbox.
Wow.
And The Ascent was another one. They just didn't bother doing the print because they probably just saw the pre-order numbers and was like, yeah, this is just not worth it. Like I'm still pinching myself whether or not my two Persona things are going to be coming or not, or if I'm going to get an email down the road saying, you want a PlayStation copy?
Yeah. It man, yeah, all all digital future and removal of physical games is scary for me, just because I work in IT. I know how software licensing works here. I don't know how it works over there, Madden Looney. But like here, it's like the way that the games industry treats us. It's like you have to have an account and you have to agree to the terms of service of the account,
Mm-hmm.
and then you don't actually own the game. You have the right to access the game. You know, and if you do anything that violates accessing the game, then we can remove the game. If you do anything that violates accessing your account or anything like that, we can remove your whole account and like the $4,000 that you spent on digital purchases.
Yep.
Like you have zero rights right now. It is very much, and it's like if you read a lot of the wording, it's like we provide access for as long as we are supporting the software.
Yeah.
So if we just decide, you know what, we're gonna not support this anymore, they can just yank and it's done.
Yep.
And they did it with the Discovery Channel and Sony.
Mm-hmm.
People purchased that stuff assuming that they actually had rights to it, and they don't. And that's because the laws are antiquated, and because no one thought that, all this digital, you know, all of this digital storefront stuff was going to really take off that much. Because all the lawmakers were like, there's no way people would give away the rights to da 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 and like not own anything and be happy about it. Well, they were wrong, because they thought that we would actually read the fine print, and we didn't.
No, and it further enforces just people are becoming ever more like in the nicest possible. They're just lazy. It's just laziness.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever's convenient, and
And
I'm
pay
not
piggies.
I'm not passing the blame. As I said, I'm myself an Amazon shill. I could easily go down to a
Yeah.
physical game shop, but the problem with that is they're usually, for one, more expensive. They won't have half of the stuff that's in there because they don't stock it, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
dying breed of a store. It's a real shame.
Yep. I mean, like, there's been several times where I've like walked around in Walmart and it's like, well, Walmart's saving me money because, I'm not buying what I want here because they're not willing to sell it to me.
Hmm.
And I just want like cat food. Like for months and months, there was a shortage of cat food in my area. And I've got 2 cats. And so me and my wife were just like, you know what, we're just going to do a subscription with Amazon Prime and just not have to worry about this ever again.
No, exactly. They've
I didn't want to
so many
spend
solutions.
2 hours hunting down cat food out in out locally. It's like I'm not actively going out and doing it. I'm being forced. And unfortunately, that's probably where we're headed with physical games too, where it's like it's going to become a boutique thing, and it's going to be strictly limited games and limited run games, and then whoever else, all these different boutique companies are going to be coming out with their edition of it and stuff. And yeah, go for it.
Did Jaws see the Insomniac leaks at all? The hacks that happened with Insomniac, where they were reporting on the physical versus digital sales rate for a lot of the PlayStation games?
No, I didn't really see that.
Dude, I'm just saying, we're a little bit away from doom and gloom territory. I think that
Maybe for PlayStation, not for Xbox.
yeah, no, for sure,
Shots fired.
Yeah, you are 100% correct.
I'm sitting there bawling my eyes out, man. My Scorn copy.
You're 100% correct. No doubt. It's dire for Xbox, but that's by their own doing. They have a console where you literally have to connect to the internet just to access the console's function, like base functionality. Like of course there's going to be less focus on physical distribution whenever you're trying to force your players into a digital ecosystem and an only digital ecosystem. But I will say on the PlayStation side of things, I forgive me if I'm wrong. I don't have the data in front of me, but I believe that God of War 2018. So we're full into the digital swing of things. God of War 2018, I think, sold 60% physically, 40% digitally. That's 2018.
Yeah.
We're only a few years removed from that. And I think there was even a more recent example. It wasn't the same, but it was like some 50-50 split. So, like, to think that you're going to give up even, let's say, 20% of your market, 30% of your market, I don't think so. No, once again, for
Yeah.
PlayStation, but it just goes to show that there is a market for this if you would cater to that market. And if that market isn't available on your platform, then they're going to go somewhere else. And it's like, that's the thing that bums me out, Looney, is that I I really want to be with you in the trenches saying, don't, I'm going to go out and buy my Xbox games. I want these exclusive titles on Xbox. I'm going to buy these damn copies. But then if you tell me, okay, well, you can buy Avowed on Xbox or you can buy it on PlayStation 5. Once again, I'm not saying that I'm going to buy it on
You're
the
always going to
PlayStation
buy it
5
on
side.
PlayStation 5 because you also have the guarantee that it will work offline. The
Yeah.
thing that I was going to literally allude to is I noticed it was on Yakuza when I picked it up, the latest one. They used to have to declare what amount of storage you need to have in order to put it in the console. You need this reserved space. They don't say that anymore. On Yakuza, it just says you need a significant amount of space. They don't need to tell you how much because they could turn around and say, you only need 2 GB. That's a significant amount of space in someone's eyes in comparison
Wow.
to the size of a photo and stuff. Like they don't even declare that on Xbox copies anymore. They don't need to. And it's because there's so many instances of like what I said about Tales. You get Tales of Arise physical on Xbox. You're not getting the Series X version on that disc, even though it says it. You're downloading an Xbox One version and you upgrade via the internet.
Hmm.
It scans it and it's like, okay, you're allowed to have this. The moment they turn them servers off, that's it. The preservation for that is you have the Xbox One version. That's it.
Yeah, that's like I said. The with the way that digital games and digital rights are, there is no consumer protection, and that's probably not going to change until a lot of lawmakers that are gamers or understand what's happening right now get in office.
Which is going to be a long time.
It's going to be a long time. And so that means that there's going to be this huge gap when things are leaning more towards digital, where things are just going to disappear. And that's honestly when the piracy is going to kick in. Um, you know, and it's like nothing lasts forever. Like even the old IC chips on like NES games, eventually they go bad.
Yep.
Like everything goes away eventually. So like you can't turn around like oh well discs or whatever. And I mean like yes, there is a quote millennium disc out there. It is a CD or optical media that lasts 100 years.
Hmm.
So it's like okay, yeah, it'll last 100 years. But again, that's still not forever. It might be forever in a gamer's life, but
No,
it's
yeah, and I think that's just what people it's so entrenched in the community that you're able to just like you've been gaming longer than me, for instance, and you can give me a name of a game, for instance, and I can be like, oh, I can go pick that up. It's going to cost a hell of a lot of money for me to go check it out and get this older console and stuff, but you can turn around and say you can have a physical, tangible copy in your hand and feel like what I felt when I was a child, putting that in and having my mind blown. And in the next 20 years, like Xbox is outing that they won't have physical media. That's a guarantee. In 20 years, they won't support that themselves. Whether or not
Yeah.
Sony continues to do that, if the numbers still are neck and neck or close, that's a different thing. But yeah, like
That
Xbox is outing themselves of that market completely.
it's not even if the numbers are neck and neck, because you're not considering, you're not taking into calculation the cost, the additional cost of releasing physical media.
Yeah.
And now again, they, all of these, I feel that the last step before we cross the line into an all digital future will be when every single console manufacturer turns around. Well, the it'll be like the first trumpet being sounded, essentially, for the Armageddon. When every single physical game for a console is released by a boutique company,
Yep.
that'll be the first trumpet. The
Mhm.
second, the final trumpet will be, well, we don't, our next console is digital only, but like that'll be the first one, is
I
when
can't envision Nintendo ever doing that with how ingrained it is in their culture. Like even though they pull the plug on like the Wii U and all these digital storefronts, like there was still even with that being like a fairly underperforming console, it had a ton of physical games printed for it.
yeah.
This I guarantee you the Switch 2 physical media will be
Oh yeah.
supported. And here's what I will say this.
I think it'll be the
I
Switch 8 that's
No,
all
that's my point. I
digital.
don't think a Switch player base, I don't think could ever swallow not having physical media. It's so ingrained in the culture.
Well, and it's something about the Nintendo magic in general. And once again, I don't think any of us are Nintendo fanboys, but like there's something about what they have going on that you would have to be dumb if you're inside of the Microsoft, house, inside of the Sony house, looking across the pond and going, "Oh yeah, no, they're fine. We don't need to worry about." Dude, they have a culture, they have a je ne sais quoi of sorts that is special over there with Nintendo. But I think before we get to a point where it's all digital, I really wonder how that detachable disk drive. I wonder what we're going to see with that, because that implementation for the new PS5 version where you have the detachable disk drive, I think that that's going to be Sony's approach going forward with their base consoles. PS6, I don't think it'll be digital only. I think they'll have the detachable disk drive. I do think, to your point, Moandain, I think it will be more of a boutique offering by that. I don't envision. Okay, so PS5 launched 2020. The next one will probably launch 2027, 8. I don't envision by that point you can walk into a Walmart and just grab PlayStation 6 games. I would doubt that. But if we do have a GameStop around, a Best Buy around, and being able to still walk in there and grab the premiere God of Wars and then Last of Us 4s and this, that, and the other, like you need, I think you need shelf presence still. And I still would, I foresee that being a reality in, the 2030s. Beyond that, I have no clue. But is Xbox going to be out of this with their, because we know that they're going to be first in this new generation race. Where people are talking about 2026, the new Xbox console is going to launch. Is that all digital? Do y'all think?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't I don't think there's going to be shelves to be present on 2030.
No, no, not at all. The thing that baffled me is hearing that some of your supermarkets still stock physical media. They don't do that over here. That has completely that stopped in what 2018? Like we're
Wow.
talking years ago. Like you used to go up to like Tesco, for instance, and you'd have the upstairs and you would have rows of games, and then they started to shrink, 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 shrink to the point where they only have them on a
And
single panel now, and then they've completely disappeared. And the
like
majority of that panel was Nintendo games.
I
Mini.
walk into my Target nearby and there's less than 100 games on the shelf. And that's across all three consoles combined.
Yeah.
Whew.
We're a
I know,
dying
gloom
breed,
and doom.
boys. We're a dying breed, boys.
So Moandain, are you saying you expect digital only for PlayStation 6 as well?
No.
Okay. Just more
Okay.
I
boutique.
I think it's going to be more boutique kind of thing. Although what Sony's going to see is something very odd, and they're not going to understand it for the longest time. And I can go ahead and tell them the secret now if they want to hear it. Um, with the PlayStation 5 with the removable drive and stuff, I know a ton of people that are diehard video game fans that have bought that system with the drive, and then they bought another drive, and they put the drive up up in the closet because while the games are not read specifically off the disc, which keeps the wear and tear on the optical pickup down, it still has to function enough to be able to read the disc and tell what game it is. So that's what's going to happen is like people are on the PlayStation 6 when they come out, and it's probably going to be straight up the exact same format as the current PlayStation 5 Slim, where the detachable drive and everything. That's the only the way they're going to do it because it'll keep the manufacturing costs down, and people are going to buy the system that has the drive and then an additional drive, and Sony's going to look at that and be absolutely flabbergasted. They're just going to be like, "What in the world is going on?" And it's because it's the people that are in it for the long haul that want to play these systems, years from now.
I don't I don't know if you I, I'm not sure about this, but is it true that the new versions of the PlayStation 5 have DRM packed in to where you have to connect to the internet before accessing the content on the physical game? Because I know it's not with the base
I
model.
um
No,
well
I
the
think they
rumor thing
removed that.
the rumor
I
thing
thought
I
they were.
heard was you can't replace the disk drives at all on the consoles, right? I know you can't do that for an Xbox because it's tied directly to like the system itself. So if
It's a
that disk
security
drive,
feature.
yeah, if
Yeah,
that disk drive breaks, that console is worthless for physical media. Like if my disk drive just breaks, I need to go get a brand new console.
yeah.
Okay.
And that's to me,
Okay.
that's crazy. I know it's a security feature thing, but that's madness. Because you think of how many console repair shops having to repair like 360 disk drives that went bad after a few years and PlayStation 2 thing and all these different and it because it's just hardware. Hardware breaks, hardware
Breaks down.
eventually
Yeah,
deteriorates.
someone will find a solution for those Xboxes, and the person who does it and
Will be
sells
my
that
best
kit
friend.
is they are going to make so much money.
Uh,
And like there are already people out there that are doing theories on like how to get past all of this stuff, and it's called the quote golden disc method, where it's like it's one disc that basically has the DRM unlock code for every single Xbox game or
Yeah.
every single PlayStation 5 game. That's the theory that people are trying to press, and they're trying to figure out a way to do it to where all it does is tell the console, yeah, that's fine, go for it, go ahead and play.
mm,
Because the entire game's already downloaded and installed on the hard drive itself. The disc just allows you to boot the game up and
Yeah,
play.
it's just a yes or no. Yeah.
And if you have a
yeah.
golden disc that says yes across the board, that's going to make things absolutely insane.
Yeah. I think Microsoft would be really smart to invest heavily in limited run or special reserve or whatever. And
Just don't buy them.
right. Yeah, because limited run, I mean, they got bought by
Jesus
Embracer,
fucking
right?
Christ.
So, Looney, how about that? Limited runs under Embracer's umbrella. I forgot all about that. So who knows what the hell the
What a
future of limited
joke.
run?
What a joke of
Oh
a
my God.
publisher,
I didn't
honestly.
even I didn't even think about that, dude. If Embracer goes belly up, what the hell happens to limited run? I mean, I'm sure they'll land on their feet. In that case, Microsoft, please buy them.
They'll reassemble.
No, Microsoft don't buy them. Don't run them into the ground. No, I'm
Or
100% serious. Like I wouldn't want them touching that. Like as much as
PlayStation, Sony,
yeah,
whoever.
no, Sony. I would rather Sony step in,
Yeah.
because Xbox's approach to physical media is shambolic, and I don't. If
Yeah.
they acquired them, I don't think it would change because it's the DRM grip that they just want on every single game. They don't want to give the player any option and any customizability of anything. They just want full control across the board.
I hate to go full conspiracy nut job on you. 2 hours into the recording, my brain's starting to go tinfoil hat mode. But these big companies, these Microsoft style companies, those are the companies that want you with the least amount of options, with the
Mhm.
least, ability of real ownership. And it's like, yeah, because it is sort of a train of thought of accepting less and less as consumers, as humans in general, and then more and more we're dependent on these $1 trillion just monolithic corporations to spoon feed us morsels of food. And yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that, but that's
Sounds like
about the
Megacorps from Cyberpunk.
Oh Christ! Just less buggy.
Just let's.
Um,
Oh, wow. Some more like Shadowrun.
But what I was going to scratch on is obviously the 360 is closing down later this year. There are some only digital only titles. Do either of you intend on maybe swooping in and picking any of them up that you missed out on, just out of curiosity? Or are you just going to let it,
yeah, I'm
So
fine. I
you're
I'm
fine?
kind of fine. Like the thing that I've always said is the day that a console loses all of its online capabilities is the day that most people start hacking it. Like after the Wii went down, like I can go on to Facebook Marketplace or Etsy or any number of places and get a Wii with a 2 terabyte hard drive hooked up to it, and it has anything and everything I want to play on, including like Atari 2600 games and various other things. I mean, like, they just kit the thing completely out.
Yeah.
And so, like, as soon as Microsoft does it to the 360, now if they're smart, what they'll do is they'll leave the online capabilities so that people who are earning trophies and stuff like that can still go forward, and that will keep
Yeah.
some people in line. But
And that's what I'm hoping for.
I'm telling you, and I'm telling Microsoft, the day that you kill all online capability for the Xbox 360 will be the day that you see the most number of them hacked in the world. And it's just a fact.
Yeah.
Because then there will be no consequences. I won't be risking my Xbox Live account with my huge gamer score and all this other stuff because it's not checking in with Microsoft anymore. It's checking in on this private server over here so that I can play Phantasy Star or any number of other things. And I mean,
Well,
like,
even before they decide to cut ties with it, you see some games getting revived that Sony pulled the plug on years ago. I don't know if you've seen some PS3 games are having like private servers that are community run that you can now access. That's crazy to me. That's incredible.
one of my favorite online PC games was by NCSoft, City of Heroes, City of Villains, and all the other things. The private server did such a good job that NCSoft looked over and said, "You know what? Here's a license to run the game officially."
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's a huge statement and stuff, because like NCSoft looked at it and says, "We're never going to make money doing this again. We can't make money doing this again. These people over here are using their own money and running this as a passion project. Let's just go ahead and legitimize them." I mean, like, I'm going to show my age a little bit. I remember using X-Link Kai. It still works.
that
It's
is?
still up
What
and
is it?
running.
What is
Oh
it?
my God. Wow, you don't know. So X-Link Kai is this old program that came out originally with the original Xbox you could link it up with a computer. You ran X-Link Kai on your computer, and it would detect your Xbox, and it would say, "Hey, is this your Xbox?" And you go, "Yes." And then you could take a LAN party game like the original Halo and play online
It's
with
incredible.
other people. And it was, some people say that it was the unofficial, like, first beta version of Xbox Live
Hmm.
that was not run by Microsoft. I think that some people even say that's where Microsoft got
That's
the
probably
idea.
where they got their idea. Absolutely. Because of
But
how
like
popular it was.
you could play Crimson Skies, you could play Steel Battalion, you could play Halo 1 and 2, like any of the LAN party games that you could play on the original Xbox, you could play on X-Link Kai.
Yeah. Microsoft's been known to steal an idea or two in their times, so that wouldn't surprise me at
Really?
all.
Shall we
But
say Chicago?
but man, I this is an awesome conversation. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to address? I think we covered a ton of ground there with the
Did, didn't you hit 1,000 subscribers?
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Come
Yeah!
on, trumpet that.
Congratulations!
Yeah, trumpet that.
Yeah, man. I just it's so funny. I for one, thanks. But for two, it's weird that like it's cool. The cool thing is that people want to tune in. That's cool. But I the video you and I put out, Loon, that did pretty well, like over 3,000 views on the talking about predicting what Phil Spencer would say. I looked at my revenue today from that video. It's like $12. I'm like, bro.
No one's getting rich on YouTube
Yeah,
except for
get yourself
YouTube.
a Big Mac. To celebrate. There you go.
What a
That's on
burger!
YouTube, man. That's on AdSense.
It is so funny though, where it's like you're happy about the 1,000 and you're like, oh damn, a video that's done better than just about anything else I've ever put out got me $12.
No, that's why
Got a
I'm nudging. You need
long way to go.
it's
Got you $12 this month.
yeah.
What if
Right.
it keeps getting you $12 every month?
I
All you
mean,
got to
yeah,
do is
right.
make like
No,
4,000 more of those videos, and you're set for life.
Right. The average hits about 300 views. Let's 10x that. But no, it is cool. I appreciate it. It's yeah. I'd be lying if I said that money wasn't a motivating factor, of course. Like I want to at some point I want to grow something to like a company. I really want to create a company, like a media company. That's always been my dream. But we'll slowly work our way there with my $12.
No, but
Invest it wisely.
you keep plugging away at like it's been growing for a while. This is I think your second outing, right? You did the rebrand, new channel.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's doing really well numbers. So
Oh yeah,
it's
it's
only
shit.
going to keep going up. But it's not going to see a rapid decline anytime
Yeah.
soon.
It's shitting on easygoing gaming. I never did any sort of numbers consistently on easygoing gaming compared to this one. So whatever, I didn't really change much anything, but I appreciate that people somehow fucking stumbled upon it. It's cool, man. But I more than anything, I'm pumped to be doing collaborations with y'all, talking about games that we all enjoy and discussing the industry. And then maybe we can keep on making a couple $12 at a time and grow this thing into a conglomerate, and we'll buy Microsoft and force
We'll
physical
look at it on a
games.
case by case basis.
Oh, you had to do it.
Hell yeah, man.
Oh,
Oh, what the hell
man.
am I saying? This isn't even my channel. I'm talking like this is on Looney's channel.
Oh,
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
you're
bro.
just as much a part of this channel as me.
I
So yeah,
appreciate
by
it,
all means.
brother.
a
Obviously,
gracious host.
this was something. Well, it's because I loved the longer formed videos, and they kind of dried up a bit because it was hard balancing both for your growth. Some people
For
would tune in
sure.
and other. So yeah, this is just as much as yours as it is mine because it's what I've wanted back as well. Like I said, it's a greed thing on my behalf. I want these longer videos back myself. Damn it.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. They're fun as hell. They're the most. They, I. That's the thing, and I think that Moandain. I think you and I talked about it doing our sleeping dogs thing. It's like,
Oh
I
man, I can't wait for that to come out.
I got it. I got it all edited up and ready to go. I just gotta, upload it and tag it and all that stuff. It should not the next video, but the video after it should be sleeping dogs. Um, but we talked about it there. But it's like I like doing solo stuff, like keyword like. I love doing this shit. Like this shit is every time I finish doing something like this, I'm like, hell yeah, that was really, really rewarding. It kind of reinvigorates you, makes you more invested in keeping up with things. And yeah, this is hands down my favorite shit to do. It's just the unfortunate reality of like, whenever nobody was watching my damn unnecessary rambling podcast. So it's like trying to pivot a little bit here and there, but yeah, man, this is so much more fun than doing the solo recordings. It's not even close.
Yeah,
Man,
and we landed here. But no,
yep,
thanks. Well, shall we wrap it up then? Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
it's been
good.
like 2 hours and a bit.
Yeah.
Um, great video as always, really fun, and thank you so much for hopping on, man. Dan, it's been blast.
man. I was just ecstatic to be able to like finally like I've seen you now and I've seen you in videos and I saw you on Twitch doing stuff and everything and I was just like, when am I going to get to talk to this guy?
Well,
And now
hopefully
it
it'll be the
finally
first of
happened.
many. Yeah, hopefully it'll be the
Yeah,
first
I
of many.
mean,
This isn't going to be the last.
yeah, and like, and I feel like I could offer some sort of like alternative view because I've been gaming as long as you two have been alive. Like I started gaming in 85,
Yep,
Yeah.
I did not
86.
exist in that year.
Yeah, I
Nor
know.
did I.
Yeah, it was 19 like 86 or something. Like
Twist the
beating,
knife.
like beating Contra with my eyes closed and crap like that, like with the
Damn.
30 life code. Just yeah.
That's crazy, man. Well, go. Hey, plug your channel. I know we got the
Go
logo right there, but go
shoot.
ahead and
Yeah,
go ahead and
yeah.
hit a plug.
Me doing the fun stuff. So yeah, Moandain Designs is the YouTube channel. Yeah, I just try to help gamers. I try to help remove that fear from someone going back and trying to collect for the Sega CD or the TurboGrafx 16 or just something that they just don't know about. You don't need to be scared. Just try to find the information. Maybe I provide it to you. Maybe someone else does. I want more gamers in the gaming space. That's my big goal.
Yep, just
Yeah.
building a community. Absolutely. And I'll obviously link the channel in the description
Yeah.
and stuff, and I'll be linking the Discord as always. So anyone can hop in
Oh,
and just have a.
Discord. Cool.
Yeah, there's only a couple of us in there, but we talk tons, anything, literally anything gaming related. We got pickups sections in there that people show off what they've got and stuff like that. So yeah, anyone's welcome.
Shit, yeah, man. Well, dude, it's been a blast. I'm about
Yep.
to go grab me a burger.
With your $12.
Yeah, you're
About
$12.
$12.
Right, thank you so much for watching, everyone.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Appreciate it, guys.